the English Entourage series. Support, coaching, and clarification. Hey, Seminole State family. This is Nicole, a faculty librarian here at the Seminole State College of Florida. And we are here today to do the English Entourage series with you. We are serious about your success in ENC 1101. Your English Entourage has assembled to provide support, coaching, and clarification on information literacy concepts and skills pertaining to your English 1 course. And today, I will be playing a pre-recorded conversation among librarians that focuses on select Week 7 topics for English 1 at Seminole State College of Florida, including finding sources, articles, databases, citations, and research for argumentative essays. If and when it seems necessary, I may pause the recording and add commentary. And if you are watching live and have specific questions during today's broadcast, please drop them in the live chat for this video, or you can text 407-915-3674. If you are watching the replay, we want to hear from you as well. Links to our 24/7 library chat and appointment services can be found in the description box below. Our Week 7 session features librarians Claire A. Miller, Amy Mendoza, Ross Martin, and Information Jason Ampenson. So we'll get it rolling in just a moment, but I do want to point out today is Sunday, October 6th. It is 5 p.m. So if you are one of our Seminole State family members that's in Florida, please, wherever you're located, please seek information about the incoming Hurricane Milton in your area. Whatever county you're in, if you Google thatcounty.gov, they should have a hurricane information page where you can find information that pertains to your particular area. And then depending on your circumstances and other factors, you can determine the best course of action for yourself and your loved ones. So again, we are doing this series to support English 1 students. I'm here live, again, Sunday, October 6th, 5 p.m. So if you have a question pertaining to your English 1 course or maybe some other coursework, something you need help with, you can live chat here on the broadcast, or you can text 407-915-3674, and that information is on a banner on the screen down below. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get our conversation about our English 1 topics going.
All right, so one of the things we wanted to talk about today is what a database is and why you might want to use one in your research. And maybe why you might not want to use a database too. Can you guys see my screen? It says I'm sharing. We need to think about databases as an aggregator of content. Databases are collections of information. To put this in kind of context that you might be more familiar with, think about social media sites, right? Different social media sites collect different kinds of material. If I want a nice hour-and-a-half long video about how to take apart the faucet on my kitchen sink, I'm probably going to end up on YouTube. If I want funny cat videos, I'm probably going to end up on TikTok. So depending on what my need is, I might access different types of aggregators. But remember, just like on social media, sometimes the same content, the same video, the same text, the same article will end up on different platforms because of cross-posting. So think about those databases. When we say database, we're talking about like the scholarly academic version of a social media site. It's collecting information. So what's the difference between a database and Primo, the library search engine? So let's just take a quick kind of side-by-side comparison. If a database is a specific social media site, then Primo is most like Google. It's a big search that searches almost everything at once. So while a database only has a little bit of data from some sources, Primo might have way more results, but you're still going to have to go to the databases to actually find them. So these are useful in different ways. I really like starting in Primo because I like getting a big, wide view of everything that's available. How about you?
All right. So before we get back to Claire's conversation, so again, you're usually asked for assignments to do research in the library databases. Another term you'll hear is articles, peer-reviewed, scholarly research. So this is what Claire is introducing right now is our library databases. They are behind a paywall. The college system, by virtue of tuition dollars and other funding from the government, actually pays for access to that information. So that's why we log in. It's kind of a big deal. It's not just like sending you off to the web, just to kind of give a little context there for you.
You guys, where do you tend to start your searches?
Yeah, I tend to like using Primo a lot because I look at it casting a really wide net and seeing what I fish back in. And then it usually helps me iterate on my next version of the search. Sometimes I want to use a database if I'm looking for something super specific, though. It's like I know I'm dealing with a construction management topic. Well, I'm probably going to go to a database that collects construction publications because the word construction can be used in all different kinds of ways. It might throw off my results a little bit.
I personally like to use a database only because I like to do, just get into finding articles versus collecting all the books and all the other types of materials that Primo will give you. But I do see the value in also starting with Primo if you want to look at it that way. And then if you're not getting anything, then you have that option with the link in Primo.
Yeah, and I'd probably start with a broad search and maybe go to a Google or a Wikipedia if it was something like water pollution. That's very broad. But if I really wanted to drill down and find out the harmful effects of red tide on Florida oceans, that's very specific. And then I would drill down and go to a database, probably one of the environmental databases that we might have or something like that. But again, I like to start very broad and very wide. And then once I know, then I go to a database to find more information.
That's a great point. And when you're researching very specific topics, sometimes it is best to start in those subject databases. One that I run into a lot is if you're looking for something that's medical, you might as well go to the medical databases because they're going to have the best information. All right, so how do we get to Primo or the databases? The good news is we get to them both in almost exactly the same way. We're going to start on the library homepage. And I'm going to accept the delicious cookies. And here on the library homepage, we have this beautiful search box. And this beautiful search box is how we get to Primo, the library search engine. I could type my search in right now. Red Tide, Florida. I liked that suggestion, Jason. All right, we have 520 results.
Okay, just to point out a tip, before we would dive into clicking on any of those 520 results, my personal recommendation, because in most and almost like all cases, it prevents you from getting locked out of a database that you're trying to get access to. If when you're at this point in your search, let's say, if you sign in this top right-hand corner with your single sign-on, so that would be your Seminole State login, it has you go through the screen, yada, yada. But then once you're signed in, it should let you click on any link to an article, ebook, whatever here, and you shouldn't have a problem. So, I mean, you could try it the other way. But anyway, I recommend that.
That's nice and large. Some of this is going to be really specific.
Oh, and there's that 24/7 chat will always pop up if you're searching in our databases. If it's not one of the librarians at Seminole State, 24 hours a day, we have librarians all around the world that help us out in a co-op. So you can use that. That'll pop up in the library search engine that Claire is talking about here.
Specific and topical and exactly what we want. Number 1 looks pretty promising to me. It specifically mentions both red tide and Florida. Number 2, I'm not as sure about. Amy, you mentioned that going to the databases allows you to skip like all the books and stuff that you're not as interested in when you want articles. So let's look at how we do that. So once again, we're on the library homepage. If you'll notice here, there is a databases link right in the same blue box. And when you open up that databases link, that takes you to our beautiful A to Z list of databases. There are a lot of them. We're almost at 100 now, different databases. And all the databases do different things. And it can be really overwhelming to pick exactly which one you want. So what I usually suggest doing is choosing your subject. Now let's think a little bit about this. If I'm thinking about red tide in Florida, what kind of databases might I want? Let's brainstorm this a little bit. Immediately, I can think of stuff like biology or science. That could be an option. That's going to give me the really scientific aspects. What if I'm more interested in like its impact on tourism?
Sure. And then also impact on human health.
Ooh.
I don't know if you guys know, just broadly speaking, red tide bad, red tide no good, red tide cause cough in human. So it's something in the water, generally speaking, that if you get close to that water, you'll start to cough and you will feel it and you will walk away from that beach, to Claire's point, and you probably wouldn't travel if you were from out of town if you knew a red tide was coming to damage the fish. And it's going to harm, and we don't know the lasting effects of that. We don't know the last time there was a red tide. So as you can see, I'm going in a bunch of different directions, but that's good from a research standpoint. But we have to figure out where we want to go database-wise. So where do you?
All right, pointing out real quick, the tactics and strategies that our librarians here are talking about for searching the databases, searching for articles, they apply to any assignment. So whether it's a big paper or an outline or an annotated bibliography or a short essay, you still want to approach your research for your sources with that willingness to experiment and do what's it called? Trial and error. Just like we're talking about, all of our librarians are having like different kind of approaches, and that's normal. And again, that thoroughness of trying different things, apply that to any assignment, no matter how big or small, for sure.
What do you think, friends? Where are we going to land here?
We could
Oceanography, even too. That's another one on this list.
Wow, yeah, it's really specific. We also have health sciences. So if we wanted to look at the human impact, I'm trying to think, like if I did, we've got the nursing databases, which are another set of really high quality databases for that more physical side of things. Gosh, you know, we have so many different choices. Let's pick one. I'm getting overwhelmed. Oceanography. Hey, we have this one called Environmental Studies. We'll do a quick search here. Actually, I'm going to do exactly the same search I did before. I'm going to do red tide, Florida. And instead of 500 some odd results, we got 94 academic journals. This is kind of nice. It breaks it down, tells us exactly how many academic journals. And as Amy pointed out, this is pretty much only journals, except if you scroll down, it does have a couple of case studies, which are kind of cool. Might or might not fit with our topic. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that thesis statement that we've already drafted, or that research question we're working on. So you're going to find a ton of information. Even if you have a pretty narrow topic like red tide in Florida, we found a bunch of information, 92 articles, 520 results in Primo. So what do we do with that? How do you guys handle figuring out which sources you want to take a closer look at?
Now, Claire's asking this question because we all know, like, you would not read not even the first beginning paragraph of all 93 articles in a search results list. So we're talking about narrowing down further to see what we actually want to take a look at, because we can't just take a look at everything.
Full A to Z list of databases. There are a lot of them.
And
Science, that could be an option.
I skipped
But
up
that's
the
good
wrong
from a
thing.
research standpoint, but we have to figure out where we want to go database-wise. So
Environmental studies. We'll do a quick search here. Actually, I'm going to do exactly the same search I did before. I'm going to do red tide, Florida. And instead of 500 some odd results, we got 94
Okay, we're back to where we were.
academic journals. This is kind of nice. It breaks it down, tells us exactly how many academic journals. And as Amy pointed out, this is pretty much only journals, except if you scroll down, it does have a couple of case studies, which are kind of cool. Might or might not fit with our topic. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about
Okay,
that
now we're
thesis
back where we were.
statement that we've already drafted, or that research question we're working on. So you're going to find a ton of information. Even if you have a pretty narrow topic like red tide in Florida, we found a bunch of information, 92 articles, 520 results in Primo. So what do we do with that? How do you guys handle figuring out which sources you want to take a closer look at?
I think on that list that we just saw, I liked the peer reviewed on the top, but I didn't like the
Ooh.
dates. However, with something like toxins in red tide, just from my vantage point, I'm not sure that would change over time. I think there's specific toxins that cause the red tide, so maybe the date doesn't matter. But Claire, back on the page, when you went to the second set of information, I noticed a February of 2024. So I might look at that and see. So I'm really concerned about the date, but I did notice a lot of those were peer reviewed, and I like that. So those would be two of my criteria.
Okay, so you're looking at types of information, which I think is an excellent point, and I love the date point you're making, because especially with something that changes over time, like science, we may need to keep a close eye on the date. If it's from 30 years ago, there's probably more recent research. But even more so than like date and time, I'm really thinking about what my question is. What is the information I'm trying to learn, or what is the argument I'm trying to make? Maybe my argument is something like, hey, we should close beaches when there is red tide in the area. Right now, most counties in Florida post signage and say, hey, there's red tide, be advised, but they don't actually close the beaches. They don't actually say you can't come in here. But if I'm arguing that we should take a harder stance, we should close the beaches, I'm going to need to support that with evidence. What kind of evidence am I looking for?
I mean, I suppose if you were talking about the beaches themselves, we would want to see, like what is the impact on human health, right? Like, why should we keep people off the beaches? And that would be good evidence to have. Like, hey, if this is causing X amount of problems, maybe we should limit the exposure to it. Maybe we could even look at, how does that impact, the local businesses and things like that? Is there a good reason to close it if everybody depends on people being at the beach, right? Like, that could have ripple effects around there.
Yeah.
So speaking to the argumentative paper, which building arguments is one of the aspects of ENC 1101 of English 1. So again, okay, so you can have different opinions on two sides of the issue, right? Opinions are based on facts, and two opinions can be right, but like they might differ from each other. And that basically is what an argument is. One person or some people on this side think this way, have this opinion, and others have the opposite opinion. But using facts, they could debate and argue about who might be right. Well, of course, they both already think they're right? That's why it's their opinion. But distinguishing between opinion and fact. So if you want to argue in support of an opinion, you can use facts for that. You can talk about people's opinions, but it always has to trace back to facts that would support that being the way people should start thinking about it.
So it's really useful to keep in mind what kind of information you're looking for, especially when you have a lot of results. I'm always thinking about, does this answer my question? Does this help me prove my point? Or is this an example of a point that the other side might be making that I need to acknowledge in my writing?
The naysayers.
The
For those
naysayers.
using the they say, I say book. Naysayers.
Yep, that's absolutely it. So we've looked at Primo briefly. We've looked at database briefly. I want to talk about something else, and that is the joy of the pre-made citation. So in both Primo and databases, there are pre-made MLA citations. In Primo, there's actually just a button that says citation. It's this little guy that looks like a quotation mark. And when you click that, it gives you a drop down of a whole bunch of different citation styles. You'll want MLA 9th edition for right now. And it gives you the citation that you can then copy to the clipboard. But I'm going to read the fine print here. Remember to check citations for accuracy before including them in your work. Please do. These are made by computers, and sometimes they make some mistakes. What do you guys think about this citation?
Computers do not make mistakes.
I
Who said
assure
that?
you, they
Who
do.
said that? Wait a minute. Who said that? Maybe the computer feels that way, students, but the computer make mistakes. So let's look at that citation here. You're right. Let's take a look. And when it says, by the way, remember to check citations, we can help you check for those citations. It's kind of weird. If you don't know MLA and you don't know 7, 8, 9, it's very difficult to check for accuracy if you don't know. We can help you. Take a breath, reach out. We got you.
Get ready, because this is the part where we as librarians really geek out on citations.
So I'm looking at this, and honestly, this one looks pretty good. This looks
Yeah, I
like a
don't see
pretty
anything wrong.
solid citation. So I'm not as worried about that.
But if I may add, I just noticed that yesterday I was using Primo and copying and pasting some citations. And when I was putting it into Word, it was taking away the hanging indent and it was taking away the italicization. So I had to put those back in. So don't just copy and paste things.
Oh,
Check
that's
it.
Great point, Amy. I've run into that too, and it doesn't seem to always happen. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, but it's good to make sure that, especially those italics, stuck from one format to the next. A lot of faculty, especially English faculty, want to know the database that your thing came from. If you clicked on a specific database, it was really easy to tell, right? You clicked on the name of it, and even when we're in the database, you can see up here, it says Gale in Context Environmental Studies. That is the database name in the database. But say you went in through Primo, that can be a little different. So let's take a look at that in Primo. Here's that algal toxins that I wanted. There's my little citation button. And when I scroll, you can see it says Springer Nature Complete Springer Journals. That's the name of the database.
Yep.
And that's also where you're going to find the full text of the article. You'll notice this just has a little summary. There's nothing you can download. There's not the whole article. So in order to get to the whole article, we still have to go to the databases by clicking on that blue link.
Right. And if you use the citation button in Primo for article citations, it's not going to include the database because it doesn't know where it lives right now. So be mindful of that.
Now, when you're in a database, there's also a citation button. This one looks a little funky, but here is the button that says Cite this article. Oh, I have to accept all the cookies first. They're delicious. All right, so here's the citation. How does this one look?
Well, it doesn't look like it's in particularly good MLA formatting.
It's not. I think it's an APA or something different. It's a little.
It looks like a hodgepodge.
Yeah,
but it looks like it's supposed to be APA, but again, we could do a sidetrack here, but that date is in the wrong place, and this is all kind of over, and there's not the parentheses on the volume number. So this looks like a different something, but again, I look at these automated ones like a driverless car. If you say driverless cars are cool, I love them, great, but would you go on I-4 sitting in the back seat of a driverless car? I don't think so. How about a pilotless airplane? So all of my funny bunnies in my classes, when they raise their hand and say, I'd go in a driver, yeah, but none of you raise your hand on a pilotless airplane. So that's the way I'd like you to look at these pre-generated things. And again, the librarians can help you. And you can see we have 4 on the line here, and we're a little confused on this. Just imagine if you don't have a good sense of the MLA. I can only imagine your confusion, and we can help. We could try to figure this one out. And we don't even know what the options are. There's no options as far as what about no? Okay.
No, it just, and then it gives you anyway.
No bueno.
I don't love it. Anyway, but you'll also know that pre-made citation still didn't have the database name. So you'll want to make sure you're adding that in.
I'm just cutting off right here just to point out. So the reason why we make such a big deal about like the database name and our librarians here searching for that exact database name within the vendor is because the citation And it being accurate helps you, your professor, anyone reading your work, whether it's an English one or beyond, it helps them verify your source or sources. So that's why the accuracy of citations are such a big deal. And that's why professors mark off if they're not perfect or if they're not the certain way, blah, blah, blah. And that's why librarians are here to help you with citations.
Database looks a little different. This is an example of a ebook database. It actually has that pre-made citation button in a different place. And once again, it might be fine or it might be a little terrible. Overall, that one's not awful, but I see one problem. Anybody else see it?
It's just got the EBSCOhost with the database instead of the name of the database.
Yeah, and EBSCOhost is the company that makes the database, and it drives us all crazy, and we still haven't gotten them to fix it. But in this case, we'll still need to edit that so it's got the right database name in it.
But it could be because they do have multiple things and multiple databases that they own. So they just like their placeholder. But yeah, technology is getting smarter, so maybe.
Now, computers never lie.
Librarians we're pretty cheesy sometimes. Well, a lot of the times, actually.
So quick word of warning, because I ran into this the other day, so I thought I'd highlight it real quick. If you need to get back to an article or something in the databases, do not use the browser URL. Browser URL is what's up here, right? We don't use it. In the databases, that is a temporary URL that is going to disappear after 120 minutes. For reasons. It's complex, don't worry about it. But that's going to disappear. Don't use the browser URL. Instead, you're going to use the persistent URL or permalink. And they look a little different in every database. Let's take a quick look here. So here we are in Primo, and we actually have a button that says permalink. Here's my permalink, and I can copy and paste that. That link will always take me back to this page 100% of the time. How about over here? If we're going to open up one of these articles, this is in a database. It says get link up here in the corner because they all look a little different. And here's the link that'll let you get back to that article every single time.
And really quick, can you hit the X, Claire, really quick? And let's read the first sentence. This will explain what red tide is. It says it right there. It's caused by Carenia brevis, a dinoflagellate. Okay, great. So at least we know what it is. It's in the first sentence. It's right here. We found it, right? I mean, we can continue our work, but if we didn't know and we wanted to do a broad overview, great. This is exactly it. And you could see the Florida red tide. That's exactly what our search terms were. And you could see that highlighted in the article. So I just wanted to point that out. This is the goal that we were looking for. X marks the spot. Perfect. And now I think I can continue with my research.
Oh, and if you maybe want to save this so you've got it later, you can email it to yourself. You can add it to OneDrive. You can add it to your Google Drive.
Ooh.
You can download a copy.
Can you highlight my sentence? I would like to highlight my sentence so I can come back and look at it later. Could you do that for me?
Oh, let's see here. Can I?
In the upper right-hand corner, we have highlighters.
Oh, we do. That's
we
right.
do colors.
Yeah.
Tool. So if you highlight it, Claire, and then you can right click. Yep. And then you can have different colors, and then you can go back to those colors. So I'm a visual, colorful learner, I would say. And then I could do it this way, and you could start getting into the different colors. Oh, this color matches with this, and so on and so forth. So you get to play with the bells and whistles in here, but it's all to help you learn.
Will it save my colors?
Yes, it will. How do you know? Go to the upper right-hand corner. And click on the highlights, and then you could see your yellow there. There you go. Now, if you want to test out this theory, you could try another highlight with another color, and then it'll break down that color. So you can always just go back to those colors, so you'll know what you're talking about.
And that's a great point. Did you know that most databases will read the article to you?
I don't believe you. You should show me a test. Show me. I don't believe you.
It's going to load for a while.
There we go.
This is a
big
long article. Yeah,
but you can see these bells and whistles, folks. These are pretty. Oh, there it is. It's going. Can you hear it? Where is it?
I can hear it.
You hear it because you're the one logged in. That's what it is. So when you're logged in, you can hear it, and that could be good. And then, by the way, does that change languages? What's in the hamburger chart there next to the listen? Does that go to
Enlarge. Oh, you
download?
can download the MP3. That's cool.
There we go.
That is cool.
And maybe in the settings, maybe it changes. I think, oh, there we go. Boop, boop, bop, bop, bop. We're learning with you.
We're learning things today. All
Great.
right.
So you can see all the bells and whistles. Again, all of these tools, they're pretty prevalent with all of the different databases. They might switch a little bit, a Maserati and a Lamborghini. They're both high-end cars, but they're a little bit different. So again, the point is finding these databases through seminolestate.edu/library and then really drilling down into the specific database that you would like. And as Claire mentioned, we have a lot of databases. And when you plan on maybe transferring to UCF or a major university after you get your transfer degree, there's going to be even more databases there. So it's really important to find that information and really synthesize it based on your specific information need.
So one more cool tool in Primo that has to do with saving stuff is the pin function. And you can do it either on the article page using this little push pin right here, or you can do it even from the search results right here. And when you pin something, it saves it if you're signed in. Now, I forgot to sign in before we started here, so let me get signed.
This is what I do recommend signing in, and Claire's going to do it right now. There's a link here, and then there's a link in this top right-hand corner. I recommend doing that before you even really like get started clicking on anything. It just prevents you from getting locked out of stuff, usually. Like almost like I've never seen an exception, actually. So that's why I recommend it.
Signed in real quick. You're going to choose SSO.
That's your Canvas login.
That's single sign-on. And then it's going to say, oh, you're already logged into Canvas or whatever. And now it says my name in the top corner. That's how I know I'm logged in. And as long as I'm logged in, everything I pin is going to be saved to my favorites list. Ooh, this one looks interesting. Saharan dust and Florida red tides. I'm going to pin that too.
And you could see those have the peer-reviewed indicator. Look for those icons. Open access, fantastic. I worry a little about the date 2001 for that, but I'd like to see what the difference is between the Saharan. I would look at that and try to figure it out, but maybe I'd want just more academic peer-reviewed journals. How do I use the filters on the left-hand side? How do I change the dates? Claire has the indicator right there on the creation date. We can pinpoint exactly the dates that we want.
Let's
but
say
yeah,
2014. That's 10 years old. I think 10 years old is pretty good.
Maybe.
For a basic scientific research. Let's just get started. Let's see how many we got.
You see how even among librarians, we do not argue between ourselves, but we have our own professional opinions. So again, like I mentioned before, it's the trial and error. You have to try different things. So not saying one of them is right or wrong. It's like a strategy that's applied to like see how good of results you can get, how quickly, and not even just about speed. But that's the thing is if you start searching, we do this all the time, even though it is like kind of like an open-ended profession. It's an art and a science, I would say. It's an art and a science. Some of it you can pinpoint exact strategies, and some of it is a little bit of magic. We do this every day so we can help save you time and like going through this process. Again, another plug for us as librarians: chat, appointments. Again, we're here to help you, and it's free and it's not cheating. If you get help from us, it's not cheating.
Got rid of.
Yeah.
All right, that basically halved our results, but now we know
252.
everything we're going to find is a little newer. Yeah.
And there it is right on the top there to tie in with our visitors and tourism. There it is. Those are the visitor behavior responses. So we're able to, just by doing a couple of different searches or using a couple different filters, we're actually getting what we said we wanted, and we didn't even change anything. We did not add we did not add tourism or visitors in our original search. We just used the filters on the left-hand side, just like if you're ordering a pizza. Pizza doesn't come with all the toppings you want. You don't just go to Domino's and write pizza and you get the toppings you want. You don't just go to Amazon and type in shoes and it's your exact size and colorway and all that stuff. You have to use the same filters that you use normally IRL. So use those same filters and search strategies in college.
That's a great point, Jason. Actually, I am going to add tourist. I want to see what happens.
Drill it down. Drill it down. Let's see the results. Oh, we're down to 9.
Okay, but
Did we lose
these
red tide?
9 look really good.
Peer-to-peer.
Lessening the
red tide.
hazards of toxic Florida red tides. Let me save that one.
And by the way, that did, yeah.
And if we're unsure, we can in our favorites, we add labels, and I can have red tides in tourism and red tides in regard to other things.
Correct. And now you're starting to kind of build your argument or your paper. You know, you're getting a couple of points to address in your paper. And you could see this is the research process, right? We've gone in a couple of different directions. We've looked.
I think they're making, Amy and Jason are making a really good point here. Look, this is not a login you have to add to what you remember for your life. You are, as a Seminole State student, you have a login for Canvas, which is your single sign-on, or SSO. You use it for most things at the college. So if you log in here and you pin stuff you find and keep it in separate folders, again, that's the organization of your sources you have for your paper. So make use of it. I mean, I think it's really good advice. That little bit of time you spend on that will save you that frustration of trying to find an article again that you know that you saw and you didn't, you lost it. That's the worst.
A couple different databases, but this is it. This is it for you. This is it for librarians. This is it for everybody. And because now we are plugged into the digital age, this is what we're going to be doing for everything. You're going to buy a house. Maybe you might have a kid. You're going to do this. You're going to travel to this country. Well, what if you don't know the language or the currency or what everything is? Why would you still go to that country? You might want to do a little research, right? So we hope that we've given you some good tips and search strategies here on this English Entourage. Is there anything else that we need to cover?
Just the same thing we always talk about, which is how to get in touch with your friendly neighborhood librarians. Jason mentioned we're happy to help out with MLA, which is something we do a lot, which you can also get help with from the Academic Success Center. But you can get in touch with us in all kinds of ways. You can make an appointment either face-to-face or virtually. You can jump on our 24/7 chat and talk to a real human 24/7. You can call us on the phone like it's 1992. Nobody laughed at my 1992.
I laughed. You didn't hear me, but I laughed. So,
for students who are going into or maybe for students who are in 1102 now that 1102 is different, I really like showing off in Primo. There's that journal search, so students can be aware that there's journals about certain topics that they're interested in if they just want to see the conversation. For any students who's like, oh, I want to do a paper on I like biology, but I don't know what the biologists are talking about. It's like maybe you can investigate a journal and just look through what kind of articles are being printed, and just maybe you'll come across something that sounds fascinating and start investigating further by reading one thing and then developing a research question that way.
All right. So our 7 thank you for tuning in. Again, if you're watching the replay, our links to our contact options are in the description box below. So we want to thank you for joining us. And remember that we are librarians. We are your English Entourage, here to provide information literacy support, coaching, and clarification for ENC 1101 at Seminole State College of Florida. So all the English Entourage broadcasts can be found in the English Entourage playlist on this channel at Seminole State Live on YouTube. You can make a research appointment with us, use 24/7 library chat. Again, check out that description box. And if you like hanging out with librarians, you can give us a like, a share, and subscribe today so that we can see you next time. We do have a lot of different things going on the channel with different ways to interact with students and faculty and staff and help our Seminole State community. So we'll see you next time.
The rhythm.